Hey, it's morning again. It seems to come round so quickly these days, but we're here. And this morning I wanted to talk about vulnerability. I don't claim to be a scholar. I don't claim to be anybody that studied vulnerability in any real deep sense. But something that happened to me yesterday that I was thinking about was that yesterday, Stroke Brain was having a little bit of a struggle. And I thought, oh, but Carol. And then I suddenly, for a moment, got into that place where I was thinking, all right, so you can't let people see this because you know that you're the sparky lady. But the reality is that it actually is who I am. But that feeling that I was having was also real in the moment. And it made me think about being vulnerable and how there are things that we go through or things that are happening to us or things that we are scared of or anxious about or whatever it is, and we never say it out loud, or we never admit it to ourselves, and we never say it to anybody else, because that would make us vulnerable. And what would people think? What would people say? Oh, they definitely wouldn't want you to do that or to get involved with that, because yeah, that's who it is that you are. And I realised that one of the gifts that the stroke has given me is the fact that I live in a space of vulnerability, actually all the time. But it's neither good or bad, it just is. And I'm not afraid to say to you, do you know what? I had a bit of a bad day yesterday, because I'm not constrained by what it is that you now think of me as a result of me saying that. Whatever it is that you think about me, actually, in a lot of ways, is none of my business. But I'm not going to allow my concern, my worry, my oh my gosh, what happens if they don't? And I don't really know. Okay, do you know what? I'm just going to pretend, or I'm just going to whatever, so that actually I fit in, I fit the mold, I fit that. I want to say to you, no, stop it. I think the vulnerability and being vulnerable is actually a gift that you can give to yourself, because in that you can identify your strengths and the lessons it is that you are learning as you walk through your vulnerability. One of the things that it's kind of been interesting for me, just learning as I'm walking through the whole stroke adventure, is that I actually talk about things as they are happening or just after they've happened. And so I'm not saying to you 6 years down the line, do you know what, 5 years ago, this is what happened to me. I'm saying to you, actually, in this moment, this is what it is that I'm feeling. And I realised that, oh my gosh, you are being vulnerable, but okay with that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with waiting for 5 years and then talking about things. That's your journey and the way in which it is that you do things. But the way in which it is that I'm doing this now, which is so different from how it was that I managed and navigated my way through the first stroke, is I'm now talking about it as it's happening. I am living in that space of vulnerability, but I know that actually I have got the strength to push through that. So in some ways, the vulnerability is actually showing me the mirror, the other side, that's actually saying, Carol, as a result of that, do you know what that means? Oh my gosh. And I'm saying to you that actually identify the areas where it is that you feel most vulnerable, whether that's emotional, whether that's physical, whether that's spiritual, or I'm sure that there's a fourth one, but I'm not sure what that one is. But identify the areas where it is that you feel vulnerable, and actually identify what can you do, what tools or resources do you need to actually support you in that vulnerability. Because I want to say to you that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a thing. And depending on how we label it, it will become that. So if you are feeling vulnerable in a particular area, acknowledge that, and then look at how it is that you can navigate your way through that. There's so many conversations about vulnerability. In fact, there's a woman by the name of Brené Brown who did a TED talk on the power of vulnerability. And I must go and re-listen to that to just look at, okay, how do we use this as a power tool? How do we see this as a strength? And I think it's a lot to do with being open, allowing your heart to be open. And I don't mean open so that it can be broken, or open so that it can be hurt, but just kind of open, because then we see with our eyes, but we also see with our heart. There's that whole inner being that actually sees things and feels it. You know that bit where it is that you go somewhere and you meet somebody for the first time, and there's something on the inside of you that says, do you know what? I want to hang out with that person. I think that person's amazing. I would really love to hear more about what it is they're saying, because there is something about them. Your heart is open. And when we look at the times that we're in right now, there are so many people's hearts that are closed, which kind of then means that they will never embrace, they will never truly experience the richness of life, because they were closed to everything. And that having an open heart is in being in a state, I believe, of vulnerability, because there is that possibility that something may happen that may rock you, that, you know, the storms may come. In fact, the storms will always be coming, but in your vulnerability there is strength. And I think that that strength exists when it is that you acknowledge the thing. Because oftentimes it's not just that we are not acknowledging it to other people, we're actually not acknowledging it to ourselves. And that's the first place to start, to actually say, do you know what, I feel weak, or I feel I'm struggling in this particular area. So when this shows up, this is how it is that makes me feel. And so, right, so I'm acknowledging that. Okay, so when that shows up again, what can I do to actually push myself through it, or pull myself out of it quicker? And what do I know about myself as a result of this? Because very often the vulnerabilities are things that have been happening and have happened for a while. There's a suggestion that some of our vulnerabilities started when we were children. But wherever it was that it started from, that we have developed the strength to be able to navigate our way through it, because we're often standing on the other side of it when we're thinking about it. And if that's the case, then actually, if we could identify and acknowledge it, then we would recognize the level of growth. Because I didn't know stuff about myself. I mean, okay, so I've got brain damage and stuff that I've forgotten, but quite literally there were elements about me that haven't changed, because people have told me that, but I realised that I actually wasn't aware of that strength before. So it was the same thing, it existed, but I wasn't aware of it. And I believe that for all of us, there are things that we aren't aware of that are actually amazing strengths, that have probably come out of those places where it is that you felt uncomfortable, that you have felt that you weren't good enough, that you've had those feelings, but actually the strength to keep going, to keep pushing through those things, are power tools that you've got in your toolkit that you haven't recognized or haven't accessed. And I wanted to say to you that vulnerability is a gift, because in that space that you have amazing growth opportunities to actually say, do you know what, I'm feeling vulnerable right now. Okay, how do I navigate my way, or how do I deal with all of this? And one of the things I want to say to you is that get yourself a group of people. In fact, actually, I have an exercise. We are all performing in the theatre of life. So we're in the theatre and we are on the stage, and the theatre is full of people. It's got thousands and thousands of seats, and depending on who we are or where we are on our journey, the theatre is full. But the only people's eyes that you can actually see are the people that are sitting in your front row. Right, so you're on the stage, you're performing there. Sometimes you're thinking, I'm not really sure about this next bit. Oh my gosh, I forgot my lines. Oh, those people in the front row are the ones that are there to encourage you, to support you, and to just love on you. And that if it is that you've forgotten those lines, if you're feeling particularly vulnerable, that they've either got the lines to help you to find it, to find yours, or they're just going to love you through that moment until the next moment. But you need to choose who those people are. So what I'm doing today then is I'm going to issue you with 6 tickets. Yep, that's it. 6 tickets for your front row. And I want to say to you, identify 6 people in your life that actually are there for you through thick and thin, that don't judge you, that actually it's okay to be vulnerable with, because you know that they won't take advantage. That you know that if you said to them, I'm having a pity party, come and join me, they would tell you categorically no. They are not coming to your pity party, but what they will do is help you to push through that and come out of that. In fact, if there's anybody in your life that would come to a pity party, if you threw one, you need to rethink where they're sitting in your theatre. Because I think the pity parties you need to do by yourself. Yeah, pity yourself, do that, get up, get on with it, push through it. But if you're sitting there with somebody that's saying to you, yeah, that's happening to me too. Yeah, that's really terrible. Oh my gosh. Yeah, do you know that all women are like that, or all men are like that? Yeah, no, you don't need anybody to do that with you, because all that does is prolong things. So your 6 tickets are for people that you know that have got your back. That you know that if you called them in the middle of the night in tears, that they would listen to you. And I think that in this season right now, one of the things that I'm discovering that's really important for me is for people to see me. Not see who they think I should be, not see who it is that they'd like me to be, not even see me who I used to be, but see me right here, right now. And that it might be for you that you need someone to give you words of encouragement. I don't know. But whatever it is for you, identify those people in the front row. You don't actually have to tell them that they're in the front row, but it's so that you know. And that if you've got people that are in that space right now that you know are not supportive, they're not encouraging, they're not whatever that you need them to be, that you put them to another place in the theatre. So they don't have to leave the theatre. They just need to sit somewhere else. So I'm telling you, vulnerability is a gift. Look at how it is that you can use it, and choose who's in your front row, and so that you have a space where you can be vulnerable if you need to be. I'm saying to you, from my heart to yours, I'm sending you lots of love. Have a great one. You owe it to yourself.